Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
7:05. Action determined in closed session. The reinstatement is denied. A record of this meeting is being made and shall be kept for 30 days as public record. Everything is made by Rosamond. Okay. The action on the claim for damages on 11/22/19 HVAC as approved. Roll call: Jim Bender here, Larry's here, Marta's here, Carol, and Dwayne. Here?
I'm here.
Okay. Approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Is that Mr. Kern?
Second.
Second by Bender. All in favor?
Aye.
No comments from the public. Okay, first, reports of communication. Student board member Joyce.
February 1st is the cadet week. On Wednesday, January 15th, they got their uniforms. This week, the 6th graders left their Clanky on campus. February 1st is the cadet ball. On Wednesday, January 15th, they got their uniforms. This week, the 6th graders left for Camp Heath on Monday, January 15th. They will be returning on Friday, January 17th in the evening. This week, the basketball teams began league play. On Saturday, the boys and girls team won 2 games and lost 1. The girls team finished in 2nd place, defeating Rio Bravo, Remy, and Netta Vesta. They lost in the championship game to Lincoln. The boys team lost the opener to Rio Bravo and to Lincoln. The boys team lost the opener to Rio Bravo, Remy, but then defeated Valley and St. John's to win the consolation round. Bill served 7th boys team won and the 8th boys team lost. Girls 7th and 8th grade team lost. We are starting soccer tryouts next week, and that's all for now.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Moore. I'm the Rosamond High School A3 president. I thank everybody for coming out tonight. Our winter ball is on February 1st from 7 to 11 p.m. Tickets are on pre-sale for $20 and the price will go up to $25 at the door. This is a semi-formal event and dress code will be enforced. You can now buy RHS lanyards at the student store for $5. We're having a Roadrunner Winter Showcase, which will be hosted by our band team. This event is free on February 24th at 7 p.m. in RHS Gym. A silent auction and a cookie reception will follow. Our junior class is selling blankets and towels embroidered with the RHS Roadrunner for just $10 each. Baseball and softball conditioning has begun from 3 to 5 p.m. on the varsity softball field and baseball field. The students must have a current physical on file to be able to participate. Congratulations to our boys and girls varsity basketball teams for their win over Desert, and congratulations to the boys and girls varsity soccer teams for their wins over Cal City. Our boys soccer record is 6-0. Our girls soccer record is 4-1-1. Boys basketball record is 4-1, and girls basketball record is 5-0. Thanks.
Now we have the showcase recognition for the Reclassification Awards and Service.
Welcome to everybody. We have our reclassification awards that we're going to be passing out today. And before we start passing those out, I want to tell you how hard these students have worked in order to receive these awards. So all the students that are receiving these awards, they speak a language that's other than English. So they've had to learn a lot of English. They've had to pass their English learner test. They also have A's or B's in their English language arts in their classroom, and they've passed their benchmarks. So they have all worked very, very hard to get to this point. So we are going to get started, and when I call your name, please come up and receive your award. Andy Abrego. Benjamin Aranya. Daniel Cabrera Arones. Maria Cabrera Arones. Bailey Cortez. Bella Cortez. Camila Garcia. Esmeralda Garcia. Jordan Gomez. Jordan Gomez. Marlene Gutierrez. Ulysses Hernandez Alvarez. Edgar Juarez Perez. Camila Juarez. Miguel Anton Legault. Eileen Maravillas. Andres Olmos. Angelique Perez. Jacob Perez. Elvis Pineda. Catherine Santillan. Valerie Torres. Andres Valdez. Alexa Villalobos Rivas. Oscar Castillo. Genesis Enriquez. Anthony Esparza. Lizeth Guajardo. Jenny Ramirez. Felicia Rodriguez. Ashley Rosas. Melanie Torres. Isabel Valtierra Bernal. Damian Vega Mesa. Luz Andrade Lopez. Kareem Becerra Rodriguez. Melissa Castanon Salazar. Abraham Corona Paseño. Jasmine Corona. Jose Ferrar Ramirez. Adriana Garcia. Joshua Godinez. Luz Gonzalez Maza. Jaleesa Mancia. Ruben Martinez. Jose Mendez Flores. Luis Mendez. Josue Roca. Jesus Segura Gonzalez. Sandra Yerquiza. Patricia Villavera. Keisha Ayal Pastor. Vivian Alanis. Aline Carballo. Julian Colmenares. Jeffrey De Leon Lopez. Janicel Frias Contreras. Sean Glenn. Estrella Gonzalez. Alondra Hurtado. Renata Luna Perez. David Macias. Brenda Magallon, Eric Mark, John Marquez, Allison Moreno Garcia, Jeremiah Olmos, Diego Perez, I shake everybody's hand.
Wait, you have to shake their hand.
And she was receiving them on behalf of her brother who is at 6th grade camp. Jaden Perez, Riza Rodriguez, Kelly Romero Calleros, Haley Vasquez Ramirez, and Vivian Vasquez. All right, congratulations to all those students, and we actually had at this time 72 awards to pass out, so great job to all of you.
Recess, business meeting for refreshments. 7:23. Do I hear motions?
Yeah.
Second? Second. Mario, Harris. RTA report.
Oh, I was going to shake everybody's hand.
Good evening. A few quick items tonight. I've got appointments set up to meet with Mrs. Gaines and Mr. Barth on Friday to go over a number of things. One of the main issues that we still need to work on, that I've been communicating since November on, is teachers not being paid their supplemental pay on time or in a timely manner. And when I say supplemental pay, we're talking about class size overage, or situations where teachers have too many students in their classroom and the overage being delayed or denied, and extra duty pay when they're putting in extra time or extra hours, and there being questions about that. The difficulties we have there is people not getting paid on time. There's not being timely communication about why they're being delayed. We need to get all that clarified, and I look forward to meeting with Barbara and Jonathan on Friday to see if we can't get that rectified. I know the board is aware of what happened with the Rosamond High School volleyball coaches back in December. It's very similar to that. This happened last year where we had teachers who were expecting to be paid in December, planning on that money to use for Christmas and holiday festivities, and then not getting those paychecks and not being notified that they would get those paychecks caused a huge uproar. So we're still working on that. I'm confident we'll be able to figure it out and get it taken care of. And I'm spending time right now preparing our proposal for upcoming negotiations. You know that our current contract has expired, but is in force throughout this year. So RTA is putting together our initial proposal, and we expect to be able to present that to the board certainly by its first meeting in March, so that then we can look forward to the fun of sitting down at the table and seeing if we can't address some issues that still exist within our contract. So it's going to be a very, 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 very busy second semester for all of us. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
CSEA?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. This is the first meeting since your wonderful vacation, so I hope everybody had a very restful vacation. In early February, we're planning to hopefully get a negotiation date going, and so that way we could start our negotiations as well. It should be a pretty easy negotiation process. It's a little bit of wording on our end that we need to fix and adjust because of laws that change and stuff like that. So we don't expect anything too crazy going on. Aside from that, looks like we're getting some of the Ascend issues worked out, which is good. That program's had some faults since we've moved it over to the individual school sites, and a lot of that seems to be finally getting resolved. Not as timely as I'd liked it to have been, but it's finally getting there. One of my biggest concerns now is really just getting everybody CPI trained. It's very important, that people they're certified in the CPI holds and that they're comfortable and able to do those properly. So that's very important for the staff and the students' safety. Aside from that, I think that's all I have for this week. So again, thank you all for being here, and hope to see you next time too.
CPO report.
It's been a good week, and this week I am passing my time to our lieutenant auditor. We'll introduce. I think most of you have met Mr. Garcia before, and we are happy to say she's done a thorough job of auditing the district, and yeah, I'm just going to pass this over. We'll later on ask you to approve the audit.
Good evening. I'm Jeannie Garcia, and I am the owner of Janetta Garcia and Associates, and we've been doing the audit now for several years. I'm going to just kind of summarize the results of the audit for you. The primary objective of the audit is to give an opinion on the financial statements. As of June 30th, 2019, our opinion on the financial statements was that they are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, but we do have a going concern paragraph and other matters paragraph in the auditor's report because of the negative fund balance that you had at June 30th, 2019. Technically, though, it's still considered an unmodified opinion, which means that the numbers are fairly presented. We did have some findings related to financial statements and internal control. This is also a compliance audit. While we're here, we test your compliance with federal laws and regulations. And according to federal guidelines, we're required to test the larger of your federal programs so that all of those larger federal programs are tested at least every 3 years. So this year, while we were doing the audit, we tested special ed and the Title I program. We did have one finding in the federal compliance area, but except for that one finding, you were in compliance with the requirements of those programs. We also test the district's compliance with state laws and regulations. And every year, the Education Audit Appeals Panel, in conjunction with the Department of Ed and the State Controller's Office, they issue what we refer to as the audit guide. And in this audit guide are dozens and dozens and dozens of procedures that we're required to perform while we're doing the regular audit. Our opinion on that, on your state compliance, is that you were in compliance with the state requirements that we tested, except for some items that we noted in the findings and recommendations. I'm not going to go through each of the findings, but if you have any questions on any other part of the audit, I'm available.
I have a question on the 2019-02, which is the equipment management.
Right. The finding number 2 has to do with equipment inventory. One of the requirements of the federal government is that you maintain a complete inventory of all of your equipment, $500 and over, and that you do a physical inventory of that equipment at least every 2 years. And this is something that we have been working on for a long time, trying to get this equipment updated.
You're saying a long time, how long?
Probably ever since I've been the auditor. I think the first year we came, you had hired an outside appraisal company to come in and do an inventory, and that's probably the last time a complete inventory has been taken.
So what is it actually that we need to do besides hire another?
Say that again?
What is it actually, what's the next step then? I mean, we haven't got anybody for the last couple of years, so we need to,
Really, our next step is what I'm working on right now. We need to reconnect with the firm that did the initial inventory. We need to save a lot of time and a lot of effort to bring in the same people, have them update what they gave us. And there are a number of pieces. There's no management has been done, so there are a number of calculations that really are required report that will need to be updated from the equipment that was there at that time, plus the addition of anything purchased since then. And then the next step to that is we need to have a clear system in place with assigned individuals to make sure that this happens routinely. Every time a piece of equipment comes into the district, it should be entered into the inventory, there should be asset tags and trackable.
doesn't the IT department do that now?
I believe the IT department does.
So they should have some kind of a record, 90, 30,
Absolutely. And what we need to do is make sure that the loop is closed there so that everyone knows who's doing that job, that no piece of equipment that falls within that range is being missed, and that anything that is purchased with federal dollars especially is identified as having been purchased with federal dollars.
I was gonna say, one of the things too, when we do the audit for the 2020 school year, part of our responsibility with government auditing standards is to follow up on any of the findings that were in this year's audit to see if it's been, if our recommendations have been implemented or not. So we will be following up on that one, as well as all the others.
So have you been following up over the past years that it has been compliant?
I have not been out to start the audit yet. We will be doing that probably in April or May. So other than what I've been reading, in the papers, I haven't really looked at anything yet in 2020. I'm sorry?
It's at least a 2-year repeat discrepancy finding.
I'm having a hard time
It's
hearing.
been at least a 2-year repeat discrepancy finding.
At least 2 years.
no more than
It's been a repeat.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, it's probably been a repeat for 5 years, at least.
I can pull the audit report for you, let you know.
I do have another one, only because I'm looking at the total of the lost LCFF funding. One of them is $19,500. Continuation education.
Which one?
It's the findings 005.
I don't have it. What finding do you?
It's finding 005.
Oh, 005. Okay. Okay. This was actually, it was a little bit funny when we found it. And I can't explain how this happened, but continuation attendance is based on the hours the students attend. You can only claim up to 15 hours a week. Anything that they attend over that just gets banked. But something went crazy in the attendance system, and the students were getting credited for 950 minutes of attendance every day. Instead of maybe 300 or whatever the bell schedule said it should be. I don't know how this happened. Somehow there was either a glitch in the ARIE system and it reverted to a default setting. I honestly don't know what caused that. But it was fixed before the end of the year and the attendance reports were revised.
So you didn't lose the funding then, the 19,500?
Well, it's not like you were never entitled to it in the first place, but
it's a loss.
right. But the attendance reports were revised in time so that your funding will be correct for 18-19, and they won't be taking it away from you later.
There's another one, which is 10,000. Independent study. Inter-district revenue, what it is, the 006?
Okay, independent study. That was the one where we had the student who was enrolled. So this is finding number 6.
Yes. Yes.
This was just, to be honest, this is the first finding like this I've ever had. Independent study has a crazy rule, and I've tried to get explanation from the Department of Ed on this, and they won't answer me. I take that to mean they don't know the answer. But there's a crazy rule with independent study that if you are attending the district because your parents work in the district, you are not eligible to enroll in independent study. I don't know why that's the rule, and we had a situation where one of the students I picked was here on an inter-district transfer because her parents worked in the district, or in the boundaries, actually worked at the district. It's just a crazy law in Ed Code that I just happened to find it.
And so, what are you doing? So that is.
I think the important piece is that we make sure there are checks and balances built into our system, into our processes for completing these tasks. A number of the things in the district office, because it's a very small district office, I have 3 people that work with every day. They are assigned the complete process of doing something from beginning to end. It's really important when you happen to be doing that kind of work that the final step in their process is always to sit and review with somebody else and talk them through step by step to make sure that they are agreeing with the way you did things and just proofreading.
Another finding is $33,000, which is the finding of 004.
Which one?
004.
Okay, the kindergarten?
Yes. Yes.
This rule goes back to 1990. A law was passed that the state will not pay funding for kindergarten students 2 years in a row without a specific form on file, and it has to be a wording that the Department of Ed tells you, and it has to be signed by the parents. And for some reason, we found that 4 students at Rosamond Elementary didn't have that form for these students that were retained.
On finding 008, the after and for school education certificate.
The after school program.
Yes.
The ACES program has a matching requirement. So the state will pay you their share, and then you have to match it with, services, salaries, facilities. There's limits to, some of the things that you can match. And we were unable to see that the district supplied the required matching funds.
So your report says that it's an estimated amount that we might have to pay back? Or we do have to pay back the 50?
I don't know what's going to happen with this. It's possible that the state could see this and reduce your future entitlements, or they may just make you make it up. I'm not exactly sure what the Department of Ed's response will be to this.
Finding 009.
Now this one, even though it's a repeat finding, I have to say this area is so much more improved than in the past couple years. Because you receive funding in your LCFF funding for unduplicated count students, students who are on free and reduced lunch, students who are homeless or foster kids. Because of that, the state requires us to verify those counts. And we actually found supporting documentation for every single student that we tested. The only problem was that for 2 of them, the documentation didn't match what was in the CalPAD system.
And that was $3,879.
Yeah, it's minor. But in previous years, we couldn't even find the documentation. This year, we found it for every single student, so that is much improved.
When I added up correctly, all the loss that we got the 2019, it's almost $148,000, 482 is what I see. And it's really unacceptable.
And all of these findings that we've been talking about are included in, the procedures for these are included in that state audit guide. Pretty much any state funding you get with strings attached, we're going to have to audit it. So it's really important to try to stay in compliance with these state rules, because that's where it's going to cost you money. And the audit guide is available, it's on the internet, it's not a secret.
Any questions?
You covered it all.
I was also going to say too, I forgot to bring it with me, but at the same time that we did the regular audit, we also audited the general obligation bond money. That audit went very well. We designed our audit of the bonds to test at least 75% of the total dollars spent, so that we can, when we say the money was spent properly, we can really feel good about that statement. And we found no exceptions with the way the bond money had been spent during 18-19.
So I looked at the prior year findings and recommendations on finding 2018-001. It was not implemented quite yet.
Yeah, this finding has been in the audit report. I think this might be year 3. Some things are looking a little better, but on the whole, there really, in my opinion, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between where we were in 2018 and where we were at the end of 2019. I'm feeling hopeful that things will be a lot better in 2020.
I'm as well, I agree.
After your findings, is there any follow-up with the company?
On the findings? Yes. Government auditing standards require that we follow up on every finding that's in the audit. That's why we have the prior year findings in the back of the audit to show what the status of those are. So all of these findings will be checked on when we come out and do the audit this year.
So let me just ask you, when you report that nothing was done in the last 5 years, who was that reported to?
Well, our audits go obviously to you, administration, goes to the County Office of Education, goes to the State Controller's Office, and the Department of Education. Now, the Department of Education sends letters to every district with a finding, and then the district is supposed to send them their corrective action plan and it's in a lot more detail than what is reported in the audit on what the district is going to do to fix it. I report it. It's up to the district, the county, the state to all kind of get together and fix it.
I know we're all new, Do we have a game plan for this? Because I don't want to go down another year and change nothing.
No, absolutely. To a large extent, part of what I have been doing since I've been here is observing processes, and a lot of that will feed into this naturally. In the copy of the report that you received, there's a very skeleton outline of the district's corrective action plan that was my product. In the meantime, since I put that, sent that to you, I've been discussing this with the county employees that are working with us. Balls are in motion to have this resolved. There were a couple of findings in the audit that we tried to point out prior to the meeting that actually were resolved before the publication of the official report, and safety plans and one other item, I'm sorry, forgetting at the moment. But it's really important to me that the auditor, when she returned, even if she doesn't find perfect situations, she finds significant evidence of progress and attempts to correct the problem. And I always like to say, if there's one or two findings in an audit, that means a couple of things. There's room for improvement, yes, but it also means that the auditor is doing their job. We are asking them to look for things that will help us be the best guardians of public funds and institutions.
Mr. Barnes, I know you're new, but typically when you do a corrective action plan, do you drill down for a root cause analysis? Do you have what the point of failure is? Or do you say this is how we're going to fix it when we don't identify where the problem is, so the problem is sure again?
I think the most important part of the process is actually getting a good understanding of what happened.
Okay, so that is your philosophy.
Right.
Do the root cause analysis.
Right.
Thank you.
And I do have one last positive thing to say about this audit. There are no ASB findings at all. And for me, that's a little unusual for a district with a high school ASB, middle school ASB, 2 elementaries, no findings whatsoever. So that is good.
By the way, Dwayne is a future president.
I have one more question on CalPACS, which is the finding, this last year's 2018-005. He said it was not implemented, and I see that there was 14 exceptions and only 12 were corrected. So I guess the 2 that were not corrected made it not implemented.
On the CalPACS?
On the 005, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
We recommended that the annual income survey should always be updated before the information goes into, CalPACS.
that's what happened.
That's what's happened.
Because you're on the CEP program, you don't get lunch applications every year, which is generally the backup for free and reduced designation in CalPACS. So what you do instead is you do these annual income surveys. And like I said, we were able to find the survey for every single student that we were looking for. It's just that the 2 of them said that they were not eligible for free and reduced. So they should have been, in CalPACS, they should have been coded as a paid student.
Right.
So I'm just saying that, it's one thing to get all the surveys, but you also have to make sure you check them carefully and update the CalPACS system if the form indicates that they're no longer free and reduced.
Right. That was for the 219. I'm talking about the 218 as well. The 218, when I didn't have that in front of me, where it says that not all of the exceptions are correct. Do you have that in front of you? Yeah. It's fine, it's under local control funding formula, pupil counts. Finding G0018, the year 2018-005. He said it was not implemented, so I was just wondering if the district, because it says the district should revise the 17-18 local control funding formula. So has that been done?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's what that.
Yes, yes, that was, but I said it was not implemented because we found a similar finding. But the 17, 18, those numbers were all corrected. Okay.
Thank you for being coming tonight and sharing purpose and some feedback on the audit report. I think the last comment on ASB and no findings on ASB actually makes a big statement. It shows the importance of having good relationships and good connections between the business office and other parts of the district. Many of these findings are not solely business office work. And so we rely on working together, and that's what we really need to focus on. Kimmy in my office does an exceptional job making sure the ASB folks at the sites know how to do that. And it's, the evidence shows itself that that relationship happens.
Okay, next is Associate Superintendent, Ms. Harkins.
Good evening, thank you all for coming. It's really exciting to be able to award all of those students their awards for being reclassified. They've worked very, very hard. Many of them, a few of them for several years, but they finally have gotten a hold of that and were able to reclassify. So congratulations to all of those students. Right before we went on we were actually on vacation. We had about 55 teachers that participated in capturing kids' hearts, and that was the first Monday and Tuesday of that Christmas break. It was a great time. Teachers really connecting with each other. It was a great training. Today there was an ELD training that was held over at West Park, attended by the elementary, some of the elementary staff. And that's all. Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Sanchez. I just wanted to piggyback on what Mrs. Hargis said. I can't stress how wonderful it is to reclassify 72 students at one time. And I want to thank, first of all, the students, because this is not an easy task. They had to pass multiple measures to get this reclassification. And I want to congratulate their parents. I'm sorry that many of them have left already. And I also want to say to our teachers, kudos to all of the teachers in our elementaries and our middle school and our high schools who work every single day providing these students with the intervention that they need to be able to speak, read and write and understand the English language. It's one of the most difficult languages in the world. So this would not have happened had it not been for our teachers as well, and all of our classified staff who work with our students. So last, I want to say thank you to our Director of Special Programs, Noemi Herrera, because Noemi has been working since the beginning of the year, providing professional development for our teachers, making sure that our students were all tested and they had the grades, and she had the teacher input to qualify all of these 72 students for reclassification. So in talking to her, her goal is to have another reclassification before the year is over, and we're probably looking at having even more students from the high school reclassified. So that's such a thrill. This is like a happy day for me, so thank you to everybody.
Board communication.
I would want to ditto for the parents and the students for EL. It's a rigorous journey. Just realized getting older, still have a lot more to go. I continue doing good things and shoot for good. I also want to thank Ms. Gaines and Mr. Barth and their team or their team, for actually deep diving and looking into things. I know every day new things are found, good and bad, and they do a good job of making sure the good keeps going good and the bad goes good. So good job at that. And sports teams, y'all are killing it. So continue on and girls can put on them out. All right.
Hi, so I do want to congratulate all the students who worked really hard and got good grades and got reclassified. And the classified staff, the certificated staff, the principals, all of us have to work together to get so many students going in a positive direction. So I thank you all for, supporting our students that, need a little extra help, because we all need a little extra help sometimes. But thank you all.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Even though it's cold, we still people that come out here and support us. I like seeing people out here listen to your comments, and it's just great to see all of you here. I'm looking forward to a good year.
Thank everybody for coming. And congratulations to all the kids that got reclassified. It warms my heart to know that they are learning another language. I was one of those kids, so I'm really happy to see that. And don't lose your first language either. You need to keep both languages. I hope everybody had a good Christmas break. Thank you for the audit. It helps us keep on track and shows us where we're making our mistakes. And hopefully we will not continue making mistakes. That's the only way we can fix it, by going to where they are. So thank you.
Thank you all for coming and supporting our schools. Thank you so much. Consent items A through R. If any board members have any questions on any of items A through R.
I make a motion that we accept the consent items.
Motion by Gutierrez, second by?
Second.
Second by Bender. All in favor?
Aye.
Revised 2019-20 school attendance dates for Rosamond High School students only. Attend school on June 4th due to school cancellation on November 21st, 2019. Ms. Gaines?
Thank you. On November 21st, after consulting, we were going through a couple of rough days there at the high school due to a threat being made to students. Took the local Southern Kern Sheriff's Department a day or so to narrow that focus down, and once we had that focus narrowed down, who was making this threat, then we had a student post a letter as if he was Principal Lisa Acanini. He even spelled her name correctly, which we thought was interesting. And so this came out. It made quite a stir on Facebook and in the community. So after several hours of talking with the local Sheriff's Department, Mr. Riley at that time, who was acting administrator on the campus because Mrs. Acanini was having surgery, he and I decided to cancel the high school only until we could calm the community and let them know that this was not a letter that had been written by the principal and that everything was under control. So we canceled school that day just for the high school only, and fortunately in the master schedule There are 2 inclement weather days built into that schedule. So for the high school only, they will continue school on June 4th, which will be a minimum. Can I hear a motion? Joyce, second by? Second. Robinson, all in favor? Aye.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Richard? All in favor?
Aye.
Curriculum and Instruction Board Report, October, November 7, 2019, Williams Uniform Complaint. Ms. Harkis?
We do not have any complaints from last time.
Now to receipt of the annual Williams Settlement Report, 2018-19.
Each August, we have teams from the county that come down to each of our school sites, or each of our 4 comprehensive school sites. There's a facilities team, and then there's an instructional curriculum team that comes. They check to make sure we have sufficient materials, and then the facilities teams check out the facilities. So what we're asking you to have received is just the annual settlement, their report that they were here that said that all of our materials were sufficient and our facilities are in good repair. Had a few things that we need to repair at both Rosamond High School and Tropical. We have resolved all of those at the high school. Just have a couple more that we're working on for Tropical, but everything is in good repair.
Do I hear a motion? My motion. Robinson? Second. Anderson? All in favor? Okay. Progress monitoring, Mr. Wexler.
Hello. For tonight's presentation for LCAP progress monitoring, we're going to be looking at the school's dashboard report. This is the California School Dashboard. So the California School Dashboard provides parents and educators with meaningful information on school and district progress on various indicators so they can participate in decisions to improve student learning. The dashboard is an online tool that presents status from very high to very low, and change, which shows improved or declined from the prior year, and it breaks it up by student groups. For example, race, ethnicity, and program participation. And the dashboard is released annually each fall. So the purpose of the dashboard is to support local decision making. Through the dashboard, districts and schools have access to the information they need to make the best local decisions about the education of children. The dashboard provides a more complete picture of all the ways schools are helping students succeed. And by using the dashboard to develop the LCAP, the district will be focusing on the alignment of resources to student groups that may need extra help. So this is from our dashboard. We're looking at the dashboard from 2018-2019, called the 2019 dashboard. So this snapshot comes from CalPADS, and that comes from Census Day, which was October 2nd, 2018. So at that time, enrollment was 3,557. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged student population was 68.9%. That number is artificially low. The percentage of English learners is 14.6%, and the percentage of foster youth was 1.3%. The dashboard looks at the first 6 state indicators, which are the academic indicator in English language arts and math, English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, graduation rate for grades 9 through 12, suspension rate, and college and career readiness for grades 9 through 12. The dashboard works on a color coding system. So for a district or a school, or student group's performance level, the color is determined through the use of a 5x5 color table. For instance, an LEA school with a high-end status and an increase in change will receive an overall performance level of green for most of the state indicators. So the best color is blue. It's on a 5-point scale. The lowest is red. That's a 1. Orange is 2. Yellow is 3. Green is 4. And blue is 5. So it's on 2 axes. The y-axis, that's your performance level from very high or very low. And depending on the measure, you're looking at different indicators. And then the x-axis from left to right is going from declining to maintaining to increasing. So if you're very high and increasing, you're going to be blue. If you're very low and decreasing, you're going to be red. And then orange, yellow, and green is in the middle. So now we're going to get into the actual indicators. So the first indicator we're going to look at is academic performance. The academic indicator is for grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. Those are the grades that take the CASP, ELA, and math. And that indicator looks at a number called distance from standard. And what that means is, so you have, when a student takes the CASP, ELA, or math, they're given a scale score. And every grade level has a different standard. It gets higher as you go through the grades. So, for instance, the standard for a grade level, let's say, is 2,300. If a student scores 2,250, their distance from standard would be negative 50. They're 50 points from standard. So you add up all of those distances from standard and divide by the number of students, and that's how you get your distance from standard for the group that you're looking at, whether it's the LEA, the school, or the student group. So for ELA, and we're going to be comparing, when you're looking at any of these measures, it's best to have a benchmark to compare it to. Normally, I like to compare it to Kern County, but for the dashboard, that's not an option. So we're going to compare our dashboard indicators to the states. Okay, so for ELA, SKUSD for last year, 2018-2019, had a performance level of yellow. And that's 43.8 points below standard, an increase of 4.5 points. And that's compared to the state, which was green, and 3 points below standard, and an increase of 3.1 points. And these are our subgroups for ELA. Foster youth was red. African American, 2 or more races, and students with disabilities were orange. English learners, Hispanic, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and white students were yellow. Okay, we're also looking at the dashboard in terms of the LCAP. For every goal in the LCAP, there's a number of annual measurable outcomes, which is looking at the previous year's score and setting a goal for improvement for the subsequent year. So this is looking at our goal for ELA, which is looking at our distance from standard. The goal for all students was 33.7 points distance from standard. The actual was 43.8 points, so we did not meet the target. For students with disabilities, the goal was 107.4 points distance from standard. The actual was 114.2 points from standard, so we did not meet the target. For African Americans, the goal was 48.9 points from standard. The actual score was 65.1 points distance from standard, so we did not meet the target. Next, let's look at our math dashboard. So our performance was orange. We were 85.6 points below standard, and we maintained with a decline of 0.5 points. For the state, the performance was orange, which was 33.5 points below standard, maintained with an increase of 2.9 points. Our math groups. In the red was African American, foster youth, and homeless. In orange was English learners, Hispanic, 2 or more races, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disabilities in white. And we had no students in yellow, green, and blue, and no student groups. So looking at our annual measurable outcomes on the LCAP, in distance from standard, for all students, the goal was 70.7. The actual was 85.6, so we did not meet the target. Students with disabilities, the goal was 147.6 distance from standard. The actual was 150.1, so we did not meet the target. For African Americans, the goal was 93.6. The actual was 110.7. We did not meet the target. Next, let's look at the English Learner Progress Indicator for grades 1 through 12. So, the English Language Progress Indicator is based on English learner performance on the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, or the LPAC. For 2019, there were only 2 years of LPAC results, which were from spring of 2018 and 2019. So the LPs, there won't be a change method. It'll just be there's no color for English language progress indicator. It's just a status. So LP status measures progress towards English language proficiency. EL students taking the LPAC in grades 1 through 12 in the current year, with both the current year and prior year LPAC performance level, are included in the LP status calculation. To determine EL progress towards ELP in LP status, LPAC student performance levels in both the current and prior year are converted to LP levels. Each student's current year LP level is compared to their prior year LP level. Those students increasing 1 or more LP levels or maintaining the ELP criterion, which is level 4 on the LPAC, are counted as making progress towards ELP. The student level results are aggregated to compute the LP status rate at the school and LEA level. The CDE will report the percentage of EL students in each of the LPAC's 4 performance levels. Level 1, minimally developed, level 2, somewhat developed, level 3, moderately developed, and level 4, well developed. For the district, 49.8% of our students made progress towards English language proficiency, which would be a status of median between 45 and 55%. And that's better than the state average of 48.3% of students making progress towards English language proficiency. Next, let's look at the college and career indicator for grades 9 through 12. Let's skip to for starting in 2018, that includes students who took the Cal Alt assessment and includes the state seal of biliteracy and the leadership military science as additional measures in the college and career indicator. So the indicator uses various college and career measures that evaluate a student's preparedness for college and career. The following measures currently collected statewide at an individual student level are included in the CCI. They are CTE pathway completion, grade 11 Smarter Balanced summative assessments in ELA and math, AP exams, IB exams, college credit course formerly called dual enrollment, A through G completion, state seal of biliteracy, and leadership military science. Okay, so these are the indicators. So we'll just go through the one on the left that'll talk about how a student can achieve a prepared status for college and career indicator. So they can be considered prepared if they score a level 3, which is standard met, or higher on their ELA and their math SBAC tests. They can score 3 or higher on 2 AP exams. They can score 4 or higher on 2 IB exams. They can get college credit courses for 2 semesters or 3/4 of college coursework with a grade of C- or better in academic or CTE subjects where college credit is awarded. They can earn the state seal of biliteracy with a level of 3 or higher, and a level of 3 or higher in ELA. Leadership military science, they can have 2 years of leadership military science and score a level 3 or higher in ELA or math, and a level 2 or higher in another subject area. UC-CSU A through G requirements. They can complete A through G course requirements with a grade of C- or better, plus one of the additional criteria from the box below. And then the CTE pathway completion with a grade of C- or better in the capstone course, plus one of the additional criteria from the box below. And the box below is SBAC, a level 3 or higher on ELA, or and 2 in math, or level 3 or higher in math and at least 2 in ELA. 1 semester or 2 quarters of college credit courses, and a completion of a CTE pathway for A through G requirement. Okay, and the calculation for your college and career indicator is the number of graduates in the class of 2018 who performed prepared divided by the total number of students in the class of 2018. So here's our college and career dashboard. We are yellow with 29.5% of graduating students prepared, which is an increase of 5.2%. Compared to the state, which is yellow, with 44.1% of students prepared, they maintain with an increase of 1.8%. Next, let's look at our chronic absenteeism. This is calculated by the number of students absent for 10% or more of instructional days, divided by the number of students eligible for enrollment. And that includes students enrolled in the school for at least 31 instructional days and attended at least 1 day. And the change calculation is the 18-19 year minus the 17-18 year. So for chronic absenteeism, the district was yellow with 16.4% of students chronically absent. That's a decline of 1.2%. That's compared to the state, where 10.1% of students were chronically absent, an increase of 1.1%. The groups for chronic absenteeism were English learners and 2 or more races were red. Students with disabilities, Hispanic and socioeconomically disadvantaged were orange. African American, foster youth, homeless, and white were yellow. Okay. The expected annual measurable outcomes for chronic absenteeism. For all students, the goal was 14.8%. The actual was 16.4%. Did not meet target. For students with disabilities, the goal was 22.1%. The actual was 23.4%. Did not meet target. For African Americans, the goal was 30.7%. The actual was 28.1%. Did meet target. For foster youth, the goal was 22.5%. The actual was 13.5%, met target. For homeless, the goal was 30.2%. The actual was 29.1%, met target. And for socioeconomically disadvantaged, the goal was 16.4%. The actual was 19.3%, did not meet target. The next indicator is graduation rate for grades 9 through 12. To calculate graduation rate, it's the number of students who earn a regular high school diploma by the end of the 18-19 school year, the class of 2019, divided by the total number of students who entered grade 9 for the first time in 2015-16. Let's skip forward and look at the actual graduation rate, which is green. 91.8% of our students in the cohort of 2019 graduated, an increase of 4%, compared to the state, which was green, where 85.9% of students graduated, an increase of 2.7%. In the graduation rate groups, no students were red, orange, or yellow. Students with disabilities and white students were green, and Hispanic and socioeconomically disadvantaged students were blue. For the annual measurable outcome for graduation rate, the goal is the district's 4-year cohort of students will maintain a graduation rate of 87% or higher. The actual was 91.8%, while the goal was met. Next is suspension rate. To calculate suspension rate, it's the unduplicated number of students suspended during the 18-19 school year. Unduplicated meaning if a student is suspended 3 times, that counts as 1 student. It just counts the number of students suspended, not the number of suspensions. And that's divided by cumulative enrollment, so that the total number of students who were enrolled. And to calculate the change is just the suspension percentage for 18-19 minus the suspension percentage for 17-18. So the district was orange. 7% of students were suspended at least once, which was an increase of 0.8%, compared to the state, which was yellow, where 3.4% of students were suspended at least once, maintained. The suspension rate groups. In the red were African American foster youth and students with disabilities. In orange were Filipino, Hispanic, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and white. Yellow were English learners, homeless, and 2 or more races. No students were in green, and Asian students were blue. The expected annual measurable outcomes, the goal was all students 4.3%, the actual was 7%, did not meet the target. Students with disabilities, the goal was 5.3%, actual 11.5%, did not meet the target. African Americans, goal was 10.1%, actual 15.7%, did not meet target. Foster youth, goal was 6.9%, actual 13.2%, did not meet target. Socioeconomically disadvantaged, goal was 4.8%, actual 7.9%, did not meet target. Okay, the last thing that we want to look at is the identification of school districts for differentiated support and assistance, or intensive interventions. So SKUSD has been identified for differentiated assistance for the 2019-2020 school year. The way that a district can be identified for differentiated assistance, I'm going to skip to the right. Priority number 4, red on both ELA and math tests, or red on ELA or math, and orange on the other test, or status of very low on English learner progress indicator. For pupil engagement, hang on, I need to go back to the eligibility criteria for 2019-20. To be eligible for assistance, the same student group must meet the criteria in 2 different priority areas. Okay, going back to pupil engagement, it would be a red on the graduation rate indicator, or a red on the chronic absence indicator. School climate priority 6, red on suspension rate indicator. Okay, and then finally, the district is eligible for differentiated assistance with 2 subgroups meeting 2 criteria for eligibility for differentiated assistance. The first subgroup is the African American group, which for school climate, the African American group were red for suspensions, with 15.7% of students suspended at least once, an increase of 3.6%. Was red for pupil achievement, where math is eligible because forced pupil achievement, because math was red with 110.7 points below standard, with a decrease of 2 points, and orange for ELA, 65.1 points below standard, maintaining. And the foster youth group is also identified as being a group needing differentiated assistance. And that's for school climate, where suspensions were red, 13.2% suspended at least once, an increase of 4.4%. And for pupil achievement, where both math and ELA were red. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Access to Kern County comparisons? When will it be available?
I don't think the county as a whole doesn't have a dashboard. It's the only school districts or individual schools are on the dashboard, but the county as a whole is not on the dashboard.
Kind of like to see the neighboring districts.
Well, I could the neighboring districts are on the dashboard. So for the next for the LCAP progress monitoring, the next presentation is going to be CAP. We're going to do a deep dive into our CASP results from last year, and for those. Kern County, I use Kern County as a comparison group.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Personnel actions. Approve the following listed personnel items. Sustained.
Yes, this is just, as you can see, we had some campus safety officers and groundskeepers resign and hired a new campus safety officer. So, and second component of this are the coaching positions for the upcoming sports, primarily at, I think these are mostly at the high school, and just filling in for most of the people who have resigned, and yearbook advisor, etc. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the personnel as written.
Sarah, second by all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn at 8:38.
Can I add one comment, please?
Okay.
I don't know. I want to put on the agenda the 1F rule. I want to re-look at that. I want to get some opinions from students and teachers and coaches, and I'd like to revisit the 1F rule for playing sports.
It's no F.
Is it 1F or no F?
No F. Isn't it a no F? No F.
No F rule there, my mistake. Let's go with the no F rule.
Mr. Bender, I know that you're on the athletic committee, and what I asked Sally to pull for us, and I know this is an area of concern and interest to you, is I would like to pull some athletic, what would I call that? Athletic
requirements or policies from other neighboring districts, primarily the Allen Valley High School District, and maybe some other neighboring districts, and see what their policy is regarding the 1F, or is it just having a 2.0? So I thought that we need to revisit the athletic policy, and I wanted to have some data ready when we have that meeting, so that the committee could then either change or leave it or whatever. At least we would know what neighboring districts are doing.
Also find out how many students or athletes were actually effective. I know when I was a coach, I rarely lost people. Yeah, you got the football team, how many did you lose?
I lost about, for a small team, I lost 6, 7, and I only had 35 kids in the program.
That's football.
I second
Okay. Bender seconds. All in favor?
it. Aye.